The MVP award in Major League Baseball is one of, if not the most prestigious awards a player can win in their career, and only a handful of pitchers have added this award to their resumes. Combining the MVP award as well as its predecessors, there have only been 25 instances of a pitcher winning, while it's been given out over 200 times. You can probably name quite a few of those pitchers, like Clayton Kershaw in 2014 and Justin Verlander in 2011. Some all-time greats to win have been Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax, Lefty Grove, and Walter Johnson. But how many pitchers do you think have taken home the MVP or some variation multiple times? Here's the list. That's it, just 3 players. Walter Johnson is largely considered one of the best pitchers of all time and had a ridiculous 164.8 B-WAR in his career. Carl Hubbell is in the Hall of Fame as well, and I might talk about him in another video, but Hal Newhouser is a player many people haven't heard of, and without MLB The Show, even less would know about this great pitcher. However, there is probably a story that comes well after his playing career that you have heard about that we will get to later in the video, so watch the whole thing to find out what it is. Harold Newhouser was born on May 20th, 1921 to first-generation immigrants in Detroit, Michigan. Even at a young age, Hal and his brother showed they were great athletes. However, their parents weren't very interested in sports other than gymnastics, as Theodore Newhouser, their father, was a former gymnast. That did not stop Hal and his brother Dick from pursuing careers in baseball. Dick would be signed by his hometown Detroit Tigers and would play in their minor league system, but unfortunately was hit in the head with a ball in just his second year and suffered a fractured skull. This would be the end of his playing career, sadly. The scout who had signed Dick, Wish Egan, would also be the one who discovered Hal. At the time, Prince Hal, as he was often called, was a thin left-hander who had been noted as being able to throw the ball extremely hard. However, Hal had a very rough childhood. He needed to do a variety of jobs to be able to survive during the Great Depression and sustained many serious injuries. He punctured his stomach when he fell off a wood pile onto a metal spike. He got a pretty bad head injury when another boy hit him with a brick. Once in a basketball game, he got a bad floor burn and kept picking at the scab until he got blood poisoning. He played football as well and received many gashes while playing. Yet even through all this, Hal never gave up on becoming a professional athlete. Hal decided he wanted to pitch for the Tigers while listening to a radio broadcast of the 1935 World Series when he was just 14 years old. Hal was already playing softball as a first baseman, but when he was 15, he started pitching, and this would turn out to be a great decision as he went a ridiculous 42-3 in 3 seasons. Like many pitchers, Hal was a perfectionist and was noted as having a temper and being the most unpopular man in the clubhouse. While there were problems in the clubhouse, his talent couldn't be denied, and he went on to pitch an American Legion ball. His success continued, and at just 17 years old in 1938, Hal was signed by the Detroit Tigers. Wish Egan gave him $500 for signing, and Hal would give $400 of it to his parents. Hal started out on the Tigers minor league club in Alexandria, Louisiana, and threw 230 innings that season. He was a strikeout machine, killing 18 batters in his pro debut, but when he did struggle, his temper became apparent. Wish Egan suggested to the organization that he be called up to watch him and keep his temper under control. Hal made his debut in 1939 as an 18-year-old and had a bit of a rough outing, giving up 300 runs in just 5 innings pitched. Hal's struggle would follow in his 19-year-old season, both on and off the field. He had a 4.86 ERA in 28 starts and had tantrums in the clubhouse, once smashing an entire case of Coca-Cola against the wall. In addition to the nickname Prince Hal, he was also called Hurricane Hal due to his behavior. Hal's 1948 season was very similar to his previous season, posting a similar ERA in a few more games. The US also entered World War II that year, and Hal planned on joining the Air Force. However, he failed his physical and was excused from service. The 1942 season would be the first time Hal made the All-Star team with a 2.45 ERA in 38 games. He also led the league in strikeouts per 9 with 5. Yeah, baseball in the 1940s was a lot different than today, where guys are striking out 5 times a game every now and then. After a rough start to his career, things were finally starting to look up for him. The only problem was, the Detroit Tigers at the time were not a competitive team. In 1943, Hal had another solid season, posting a 3.04 ERA and being selected to back-to-back All-Star games. However, it was clear he had a big walk issue, leading the league in walks with 111. There's also one part I left out. In both his All-Star seasons to this point, he had a negative win-loss record. Back in the 40s, and really up until fairly recently, wins were one of the primary stats to judge pitchers. After the 43 season, Hal's father even offered him a job at the Chrysler headquarters had he decided to leave baseball. He stayed in baseball, and suffice to say, that was the right decision because he would go off in 1944 with a 2.22 ERA, 29 wins, which would be the most in a single season in his career, and 187 Ks, which led the league. In addition to being selected for his 3rd straight All-Star game, Hal also won the first of his 2 MVP awards, narrowly beating out his teammate Dizzy Trout. The 1944 season would not even be his best in a 2-year span because he was on another level in 1945. He posted a sub-2 ERA at 1.81, led the league in strikeouts again with 212, and had a 1.95 ERA+, which means he was 95% better than the average pitcher that year. He also had 25 wins and accumulated a ridiculous 12.2 BWAR, and he won the pitching Triple Crown. He would go on to win his second MVP and become the first and so far only pitcher to win the award in back-to-back years. Hal would also get his only World Series ring this year, as the Tigers would take the series in 7 games against the Chicago Cubs. After back-to-back MVPs, Hal was not even close to being done. In 1946, Hal was just about as dominant as ever. He had a sub-2 ERA once again, and this time had way more strikeouts at 275, but that actually did not lead the league this time. He also had one more win than last year. Hal finished second in MVP voting to a player you may have heard of named Ted Williams, and this would be his last completely dominant season, but he would still be great the next 3, being named an All-Star in the next 2, and never having an ERA above 3.36 in those 3 seasons. 1950 was not as kind to Hal, with him having an ERA almost a full run higher at 4.34 and striking out less batters. He was once again offered a job outside of baseball for a firm in Detroit, but turned it down. Hal had been working with kids on pitching as well, and even wrote a book called Pitching to Win while establishing a club for children called Hal's Pals. Hal was still passionate about baseball, but it was clear he was getting to be past his prime, and before the 1954 season, he was released by the Tigers organization after having an ERA above 7 in just 7 games in 1953. Hal's career wasn't done, as a former teammate and the GM of the Cleveland Indians offered him a contract to which Hal accepted and became a reliever. He posted a 2.51 ERA in 26 games and would play in 2 games in 1955, and that would be the end of his major league career at just 34 years old. Hal stayed in baseball for decades to come as he was a scout for multiple organizations, most notably the Houston Astros. And why is that the most notable? Well, remember in the beginning of the video when I said there was a story that came well after his playing career you might know about? If you're a Yankees fan, you will almost certainly know this. In the 1992 draft, he suggested that Houston draft a shortstop from Kalamazoo named Derek Jeter first in the 1992 draft. Instead, they drafted Phil Nevin, and the rest is history. Had the Astros listened to him, then Derek Jeter would likely not be my favorite baseball player of all time, and because of this, Hal would leave the Astros. Even with the 2 MVPs he won back-to-back and a career 3.06 ERA, Hal was not voted into the Hall of Fame, at least not initially. He would need to wait until 1992, which was over 3 decades after his last game, to be selected into the Hall of Fame by the Veterans Committee. Hal Newhouser would pass away 6 years after getting enshrined in Cooperstown on November 10, 1998 in Southfield, Michigan, but not before leaving a lasting legacy on the game of baseball, doing something many of the greatest pitchers couldn't do by winning 2 MVP awards. Hal Newhouser fought through many struggles to become a 7-time All-Star, MVP, World Champion, and Hall of Famer. If you made it to the end of this video, this is the time I'll ask that you please subscribe if you enjoyed, and click the bell notification to be notified when I upload, as well as like this video and comment. This is only my second video and my first in like 4 years, and I want to make more videos like this on a variety of baseball topics, including more videos like this where I talk about the lives and careers of baseball players, as well as baseball history, and then just going over pretty much anything I could think of baseball related. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.